Smoke filled the sky above Kirill Prime. The once beautiful alien colony was now a battlefield. Fire burned across the skyline, and the sound of energy blasts echoed through the air. Civilians screamed. Soldiers ran through broken streets. It was chaos. The Zarkan Empire had attacked without warning. Their ships came out of hyperspace, dark and massive, like shadows eating the stars. Within minutes, they destroyed the colony's defense grid. Now, ground forces were moving through the city, shooting anyone who resisted. The defenders were brave but outnumbered, and their weapons were weak against Zarkan armor. Commander Relek, of the Kirill Defense Forces, stood in the control tower, his face covered in blood and dust. He pressed the comlink button again and shouted, "This is Kirill Prime. We are under attack. Any ships nearby, please respond. We need backup. Anyone out there?" But the reply was the same. Silence. Behind him, the communications officer, a young female alien named Yara, looked scared. Her hands were shaking and tears rolled down her cheeks. "No one is coming," she whispered. Relek slammed his fist on the console. "Keep trying, someone has to hear us." Yara nodded and kept sending the distress signal into open space. "Please, anyone, we're dying down here." Outside, the sky turned darker. Zarkan drop pods began landing in the center of the city. Giant war mechs stepped out, firing plasma rounds. Buildings collapsed. A mother ran with her child, but the shockwave knocked them into the rubble. Screams echoed like sirens. In the distance, 3 Kirill fighter jets flew in formation, trying to stop the enemy. One was shot down instantly. The second was cut in half by a Zarkan drone. The third crashed into a tower, exploding in bright fire. Relek watched all of this from the tower window. His heart sank. This was the end. They had called for help, but no one had come. The Galactic Council would not risk war with the Zarkans, and no one else was foolish enough to help a weak colony like Kirill Prime. Then the console made a sound, a strange beep. Yara looked up. "Commander, we got a signal." Relek turned sharply. "From where?" Yara frowned. "It's not clear. The signal is old, unusual frequency. But they said—" She paused. Relek walked over quickly. "They said what?" She looked at him, confused and afraid. "They said, human fleet inbound." Relek blinked. For a second, he thought he misheard her. "Humans? That's impossible. Humans are gone. They vanished over 100 years ago. Everyone knows that." "I'm just reading what it says," she replied, her voice shaking. Relek stared at the screen. The message repeated again. "Human fleet inbound. Prepare for contact." In orbit, Zarkan command ship Torax Fist picked up the same transmission. Commander Vraz, leader of the invasion, watched it on his screen and laughed. "Humans," he said, smirking at his officers. "They still believe in ghost stories?" His second-in-command shrugged. "Let them hope. It won't save them." Vraz turned back to his battle map. "Begin the final sweep. Kill anything that moves." But then, something changed. Above Kirill Prime, space twisted. A black line appeared in the stars like a crack in glass. Then, without sound, a massive ship emerged. It was shaped like a blade, dark gray and covered in strange glowing marks. Zarkan radar lit up. More ships came behind the first one. 5, 10, 20. They were old but powerful, and they moved like shadows through the void. No known race matched the design. No one had seen ships like these in a century. Commander Vraz stood up from his chair. "Identify those ships, now!" His officers scrambled. One shouted, "No match in the database." "But one of them has a nameplate." Vraz narrowed his eyes. "Speak." The officer hesitated. "It says, USS Vengeance." For the first time, Vraz didn't smile. On the ground, Relek and Yara watched the sky as the human fleet arrived. The lead ship opened its lower bay and drop pods launched straight toward the battlefield. Each pod was fast, sleek, and black. They hit the ground with thunderous crashes. From inside, human soldiers stepped out, tall, armored in black, helmets hiding their faces. They didn't speak. They didn't wait. They moved with perfect control. The Zarkan forces opened fire, but it was useless. Humans returned fire, with energy weapons no one had seen before. One shot vaporized an entire squad. Another hit a mech, causing it to explode from the inside. Human soldiers didn't yell, didn't celebrate. They just moved forward like ghosts. Relic couldn't believe it. "They're real." Yara stared in awe. But where have they been? No one had the answer. Across the battlefield, Zarkan troops began to fall back. Their strongest weapons were useless. Their mechs were torn apart. Fear spread among them. A fear they hadn't felt in years. In the sky, the largest human ship turned toward the Zarkan command vessel. Its front glowed. Then it fired. A single red beam shot across space, and Torak's fist vanished in silence. Commander Vraz. Gone. In the control tower, Relic slowly sat down. His body was shaking, not from fear, but from shock. The humans had come, and they had not come to talk. The smoke was still thick in the air, but the sound of gunfire had stopped. Commander Relic stood silently in the Chiral Prime control tower, staring out at the battlefield. The city was half in ruins, buildings burning and streets broken, but the Zarkan forces were gone. Not defeated in a slow, painful fight, not held back. No, they were wiped out. Yara sat beside the console, eyes wide, hands still trembling. "Did you see how they moved, how they fought?" Relic nodded slowly, still trying to process what had happened. That wasn't a normal army. That was something else. Down below, human soldiers walked through the ruins like shadows. They moved in groups of 4, scanning the area, weapons held tight. They never spoke. Their helmets were smooth with red visors that glowed like fire. Every step they took made the ground feel heavier, like gravity itself respected them. One Zarkan soldier tried to crawl away, wounded. A human soldier walked up, looked down, and without saying a word, pointed his weapon and fired. The body vanished. In light, Yara looked away. No mercy. "They didn't come to negotiate," Relic said. "They came to end this." Suddenly, the control tower's main screen lit up. A message appeared. "Prepare for debrief. High Command arriving." Relic blinked. "High Command," Yara whispered. "Whose command?" Then, the tower shook. Outside, a human shuttle landed, smoothly near the front steps of the tower. Its wings folded in and the ramp lowered with a hiss of cold steam. 2 human soldiers stepped out, followed by someone different. The figure wasn't in full armor. He wore a dark command suit with silver trim. His face was visible. Human, older, stern eyes, gray hair cut short, face marked with deep lines, but alert, sharp, dangerous. Relic and Yara walked outside slowly, nervous. The man stepped forward and said in clear, calm English, "I am General Marcus Hale, commander of the 7th Human Expeditionary Fleet." Relic raised his hands. "We mean no harm. We're just—" Hale stopped him with a small wave of the hand. "Relax, Commander Relic. You are not the enemy. You asked for help. We responded." Relic looked stunned. "But how? Humans vanished. No one has seen your kind in over a century. You were declared extinct, lost, scattered." General Hale gave a small, bitter smile. "Yes. That's what they wanted you to believe." Relic frowned. "They?" Hale looked up at the burning sky. "The ones who feared us the most. The ones who made sure history forgot us. But we didn't disappear. We went into hiding. Into silence, watching, preparing." Yara stepped forward, still nervous. "Why now? Why show yourselves now?" The general turned to her. His voice was colder now. "Because the galaxy forgot who we were. The Zarkans crossed a line. You called for help. No one came. Except us." "But why help us?" Relic asked. "You could have stayed hidden. General Hale looked directly at him. Because we remember what it feels like to be ignored. To scream into the void and get silence. We were erased from maps, blamed for wars we didn't start. Called monsters. So we became what they feared. A long silence followed. Relic took a deep breath. What happens now? Hale turned to look at the city again. Now we clean up, and then we find the Zarkan homeworld. You're going to attack their empire? The general nodded once. No more hiding. No more shadows. If the galaxy wants to remember who humans are, we'll remind them, one empire at a time. In orbit, human ships moved silently through space. Drones repaired damaged buildings, while others collected data from Zarkan weapons. Some of the human ships looked ancient, rusted, patched, even scarred. But their weapons were advanced, far beyond anything the current galaxy used. On one of the ships, a technician named Riley sat inside the command center. She monitored signals, watching for any incoming threats. Suddenly, her console blinked red. "Sir," she said to her captain, "we've got incoming probes from Zarkan Sector 4. They've spotted us." The captain nodded. "Let them." "Sir, they need to know what's coming." Back on the surface, General Hale stood at a large holographic table set up in the remains of a government building. Around it were Kyril officers, now working side by side with human strategists. Maps, data, troop positions, all displayed in blue light. Relic watched as the humans planned operations faster than he could follow. "We'll need support," he said. "You can't take on the Zarkan Empire alone." "We won't be alone," Hale said. "You'll help and others will join when they see what we do." "And if they don't?" Relic asked. Hale looked at him. "Then we remind them too." That night across the galaxy, security systems lit up. Broadcast towers hijacked, military satellites taken over. And then, a message appeared on every screen, in every language. "To the empires who forgot us, to those who erased our name. You called for backup," humanity answered. "Remember who we are." Behind the words, the screen showed raw footage. Humans landing on Kyril Prime, moving like ghosts, cutting down the Zarkan army in minutes. No music, no drama, just cold, silent victory. Across the stars, leaders watched in fear. On the Zarkan, capital world, High Chancellor Makrith stood in his war chamber. His skin was pale, his eyes wide. "This is impossible. They were destroyed." One of his advisors stammered, "They never died, Chancellor. They hid. And now, they've returned." Makrith turned to his generals. "Mobilize the fleets, all of them." A general replied, "Against one fleet of ghosts?" Makrith growled, "They are not ghosts. They are the nightmare we tried to erase." Back on Kyril Prime, Yara watched the stars above as human ships moved silently like predators. She turned to Relic. "Do you think they can win?" Relic didn't answer right away. He just stared at the human patrols, then he said, "I don't know if they'll win, but I believe they'll never stop." In a dark corner of the city, a human soldier knelt beside a piece of Zarkan tech. He scanned it, then whispered into his comms. Data recovered, confirming Zarkan genetic labs, targeting non-Zarkan species. The voice on the other side replied, "Understood. Mark for orbital strike." A red beam came from the sky. The lab vanished. General Hale watched it burn from the tower. He closed his eyes. This is just the beginning. The stars above Sector 17 flickered as a fleet of human ships jumped into real space. The Zarkan listening posts barely had time to react. Their scanners flared red for 3 seconds before vanishing in silence. What followed wasn't an attack. It was an announcement. A cold, clear statement of presence. Humanity had arrived. Inside the flagship ISS Dreadnought, General Marcus Hale stood at the center of the command deck, his hands behind his back. Around him, screens showed live feeds from orbit, cities, enemy, patrols, and ancient ruins from a forgotten war. "Confirm target coordinates," he said calmly. "Confirmed, sir," replied Commander Ortega. "Zarkan supply depot hidden beneath the old volcanic shelf. They didn't expect anyone to find it. They always underestimate us, Hale muttered. Begin strike. Down below, Zarkan troops were relaxing in the outpost. They didn't hear anything. There was no siren, no warning, just a sound like thunder splitting open the sky. And then, fire. Orbital kinetic rods fell from the heavens. One by one, they struck like divine fists. The outpost vanished in 10 seconds. The entire shelf collapsed into itself. From orbit, it looked like a scar burning into the surface. No survivors. The operation name, Silent Flame. On Chiral Prime, news of the strike arrived within hours. Relic sat in front of the hologram display watching the footage. Yara stood behind him. They destroyed the depot without ever landing troops. They don't fight like us, Relic whispered. They don't even think like us. Across the galaxy, fear started to grow. Empires that had once ignored human signals were now watching closely. Debates started in council chambers. Some feared the humans. Some wanted to ally with them. Others wanted to hide. On the Zarkan homeworld, panic was spreading fast. Chancellor Makreth slammed his fist onto the table. This is the third outpost. They've destroyed this week. One of his generals growled, we underestimated them. They've advanced too far. They were gone for 100 years, Makreth shouted. How did they become this strong? An old voice spoke from the shadows of the chamber. Because they remembered everything. The room turned silent. Was General Voktal, the last Zarkan commander to fight humans during the Forgotten War. They disappeared because we forced them to, Voktal said. We crushed their fleets, we erased their worlds. But they didn't die. They adapted. And they swore never to be weak again. Makreth hissed. You speak of them like you respect them. Voktal nodded slowly. I do. Because the last time, I faced them. I barely survived. Makreth paused. Then what do you suggest? The old general looked up. You don't send ships, you send spies. We need to know where they came from, what they've built in the shadows, how they grew so strong, unseen. Meanwhile, deep in human territory in a secret base known only as the Core, humans were preparing for something bigger, something darker. The room was filled with data, Zarkan experiments, genetic weapons, artificial plagues. General Hale stood in the shadows as his science officers reviewed files recovered from the destroyed labs. Dr. Lena West turned to him. Her face was pale. Sir, it's worse than we thought. They weren't just conquering planets, they were cleansing them, removing any species that couldn't be controlled. Hale's voice was calm. Including us? Lena nodded. Especially us. They tried to erase humans from DNA registries, wipe our cultural records. They didn't just want to defeat us. They wanted the galaxy to forget we ever existed. The general stared at the screen. The image showed a list. Thousands of planets where human traces had been removed. Art, books, memories, all gone. Then we give them something they can't erase, Hale said coldly. Fear. Back on the Zarkan outpost of Raxos, something unusual happened. A squad of elite Zarkan infiltrators returned with a live prisoner. He wasn't in armor. He had no weapons. Just a calm face and tired eyes. A human, alone. Makreth's spies dragged the man into the war chamber. Name, the Chancellor barked. The prisoner just smiled. Makreth stepped forward. What is your purpose? The human leaned closer and whispered, I'm here to deliver a message. Message? The man smiled wider. Suddenly, every screen in the chamber turned red. The Zarkan networks were breached. Sirens blared. The lights flickered. On the main screen appeared General Hale's face. He spoke in perfect Zarkan dialect. You erased our history, so now, we'll write a new one. With fire. And then the feed cut. The prisoner smiled one last time before he exploded in a flash of energy. He was a decoy. A data bomb. Every Zarkan system in the region went dark. The humans had hacked them, without a single ship. Back on Chiral Prime, Relic met with General Hale in a small war room. Outside, more cities were being rebuilt by human drones. Food, medicine, supplies arriving like clockwork. "You're winning battles," Relic said. "But the Zarkans are massive. 10,000 systems, millions of soldiers." Hale nodded. "We're not fighting their army, we're fighting their pride. When it breaks, everything else falls." "But why us?" Yara asked. "Why fight for a world that never helped? You?" General Hale looked at them. His voice was quiet now. "Because we remember who helped us in the old days. Kirill gave humans shelter after the collapse. You offered your skies when no one else would. And even if history tried to forget that, we didn't." Yara was silent. Relic blinked. "Then what's your next move?" Hale pulled up a star map. "Phase 3, he said. "Strike at their heart." Everyone in the room turned to the screen. The red circle was on Zarkan Prime, the capital. "You're going to attack their capital?" Relic asked in disbelief. "No," Hale said. "We're going to show up just close enough to make them panic." Yara frowned. "Why?" The general looked at her. "Because fear makes empires stupid." The galaxy was holding its breath. In every star system close to Zarkan territory, old enemies began to stir. Rumors of the humans spread like wildfire, how they fought like ghosts, struck like lightning, and vanished without warning. Fleets that had once mocked Earth now watched the stars with growing dread. On a secret Zarkan base orbiting a black gas giant, a meeting was taking place in darkness. 5 Zarkan warlords had gathered. They spoke in hushed voices, hiding their fear behind angry growls. "Their ships appear without warning," said Warlord Temek. "We lose stations before we even detect them." Warlord Dran hissed, "They are only one species, one. Why can't we crush them like before?" General Vaktal's voice cut through the room. "Because this isn't the same humanity we fought a century ago. They have become something else." The room fell silent. Then Chancellor Makreth appeared on the central holoscreen. "I have made contact," he said. Everyone turned toward the glowing projection. "With who?" Dran asked. Makreth paused. "With an ally. Someone who can give us access to the human command network." That statement dropped like a bomb. "What are you talking about?" Temek asked. "No outsider can break their encryption." Makreth smiled. "Not an outsider. An insider." A figure stepped into the light behind Makreth. It was a human. Thin, pale, eyes cold with hate. "My name," the man said slowly, "is Commander Riven Hale." The warlord stared in disbelief. "He's one of them," Makreth said. "Brother to General Marcus Hale." Vaktal's eyes narrowed. "Why would a human betray his own?" Riven's voice was hollow. "Because he betrayed me first. He left me behind on Galvan 6. Everyone knew what happened on Galvan 6, a forgotten world where the Zarkans once wiped out an entire colony during the final year of the war. "You survived?" Vaktal asked. Riven nodded. "Barely. No help came. No rescue. My own brother moved on, left my name off the records. He erased me. Now I return the favor." Makreth turned to the warlords. "With his help, we can access their war signals. Locations, fleet jumps, command orders. Everything." Warlord Dran growled. "You think we can trust a traitor?" Makreth replied. "We don't need to trust him. Just use him." They all agreed. Meanwhile, light years away aboard the ISS Dreadnought, General Marcus Hale stared at the stars, unaware that betrayal was already in motion. "Sir," Commander Ortega called from the command console, "we just got strange readings from the Talon Drift." "What kind of readings?" Hale asked. "Energy bursts, like someone is scanning us, but from inside a Zarkan dead zone." Hale frowned. "No one should be able to reach us inside Talon. Drift, not without help." His instincts began to tighten like a noose. "Prepare the firewall team," he said, "and reroute all fleet movements through tight beam encryption only," but it was already too late. Back in the Zarkan command center, Rivenhale smiled as streams of data poured across the screen. Fleet positions, entry points, warp delays, he said softly. It's all here. Makreth's generals cheered. This is our chance, Makreth growled. Launch Operation Eclipse, hit them where it hurts. Their target was Kiral Prime, the only planet protected by human orbital shields, but lightly defended by troops. Rilek, Yara, and the rest of the Kiral civilians had no idea what was coming. By the time they saw the incoming Zarkan ships, it was too late. The skies above the capital city turned black. Zarkan troop carriers slammed into the atmosphere, dropping thousands of soldiers. Explosions rocked the hills, shield generators overloaded, fires spread, families ran. Panic set in. Yara grabbed children and dragged them toward the tunnels. Relek tried to contact orbit, but there was silence. No human fleet came. For the first time in weeks, Kiral was alone. In the Dread Knight's war room, the message came through seconds later. Kirel under attack. Urgent response required. General Hale froze. Ortega whispered, "How did they know the shield gap timing? That signal route was buried." Hale's jaw clenched. "We've been compromised." A silence fell over the room. Then Hale gave the order. "Jump the fleet. Emergency protocol. Send everything." In less than a minute, 5 human dreadnoughts roared through subspace, but they would arrive 20 minutes late. Down on the surface, Relek and Yara fought to get civilians underground. Zarkan troops flooded the streets. Plasma fire lit the sky. Homes burned. Screams echoed through the tunnels. Relek was bleeding from his arm but refused to stop. He carried a child on his back. "This way. Go. Keep moving," he shouted. Yara fired a stolen Zarkan rifle at incoming troops. Her hands shook, but her eyes were steel. Above, 3 Zarkan bombers dropped fire into the forests, trying to flush out survivors. But then, the clouds tore open, the sky screamed, and the Dread Knight arrived, not in orbit, but inside the atmosphere. It punched through the upper layers like a falling god. Its side cannons fired before the landing gear even touched ground. Entire Zarkan. Battalions were vaporized. Dropships followed. Human soldiers in dark armor hit the ground with shock packs, moving like shadows through flame and smoke. General Hale himself dropped from orbit, his armor humming with power, his boots smashing. Into the ruins, Yara saw him land. His voice roared through comms. "Hold the line. No one falls today." The tide turned. Human reinforcements moved like predators. Fast, coordinated, ruthless. They used terrain the Zarkans ignored. They used fear the Zarkans didn't understand. Within hours, the Zarkan invasion crumbled. The few who tried to retreat found themselves surrounded. Relek stood by a collapsed tunnel wall, shaking with exhaustion. "They came back," he whispered. Yara wiped dirt from her face, and they always do. After the battle, Hale met with Relek and Yara. The city was in ruins, but the people were alive. "I'm sorry we were late," Hale said. "We were betrayed." Relek looked at him, confused. Hale continued, "By someone I once called family." The truth struck hard. Yara asked softly, "What will you do?" Hale looked to the sky. The stars outside the command room flickered silently as General Marcus Hale studied the holographic map of the Zarkan space. Every blinking red dot marked a threat, a potential strike against humanity's fragile colonies. But one dot was different. It pulsed steadily, almost like a heartbeat. It was deep inside Zarkan territory, in a place called Vekthal, a remote system forgotten by most. "This is where we strike next," Hale said, voice low but firm. His officers exchanged nervous glances. Vekthal was a fortress, heavily guarded, surrounded by treacherous asteroid fields and deadly radiation storms. No human ship had ever gone there without a fleet. But this time, Hale planned something different. "We send a small team, quiet, fast, and deadly," he explained. "No fleet, no big guns, just us." Commander Ortega nodded. "Who do you want, sir?" Hale looked at the list and pointed to 3 names: Yara, Relek, and Lieutenant Jace Mallory. They know this. Fight. They know what's at stake. The room grew silent as the team prepared. Outside, ships hummed with power, but inside the Dreadnought, a smaller stealth cruiser waited, cloaked and ready. Yara felt her heart pound as she checked her rifle's ammo. "This feels different," she whispered to Relic. Relic shook his head. "It's more than that. This mission, it's a secret even from the fleet." Lieutenant Mallory joined them. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with determination. "We're the ghost team. No one knows we're coming." Hale gave the final orders. "Get in. Find the truth. Get out." The cruiser slipped out of the Dreadnought's hangar and vanished into subspace. Inside Vekthal, the silence was deadly. The asteroid belt around the system twisted like a serpent, and the team's sensors struggled to pierce the dark clouds. When they reached the planet, they saw why it was so heavily guarded. Massive towers rose like claws from the surface, surrounded by swarms of drones and automated turrets. The planet's atmosphere glowed faint green, a toxic mix created to deter invaders. "This is a fortress," Yara said, eyes scanning the defense grid. Relic checked the mission data on his wrist. And inside, a secret. Something the Zarkans want hidden. The team landed miles from the nearest base, creeping through jagged rocks and poisonous fog. Every step was dangerous. The Zarkan patrols were alert and ruthless. Suddenly, Mallory held up a hand. "Movement ahead, 2 guards." Yara aimed her rifle, but Hale's voice crackled through comms. "No kills unless necessary. We want to capture information." The guards passed, unaware of the shadows moving between the rocks. Deeper inside, they found an underground tunnel. The air grew colder. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls. "This isn't just a military base," Relic whispered. "It's something else." They reached a massive chamber filled with machines humming softly. Screens displayed star charts, data streams, and a strange device pulsing with blue light. Mallory moved closer. "What is that?" Suddenly, alarms blared. The chamber sealed shut. Zarkan soldiers poured in, surrounding the team. "We're trapped," Yara said, firing at the first wave. Gunfire echoed through the tunnels. The team fought fiercely, taking cover behind consoles and machines. Just when hope seemed lost, a hidden door slid open. A figure appeared, cloaked, moving like a shadow. "Follow me," the stranger whispered. They had no choice. The stranger led them through secret passages, past sleeping drones and security cameras. Finally, they reached a room filled with ancient artifacts, old human technology mixed with alien designs. "This," the stranger said, "is the key to our past and your future." Relic stared at a holographic map showing stars unknown to human charts. "Why keep this hidden?" Yara asked. "Because," the stranger replied, "it reveals who humans really are. Not just survivors, but something more." The team listened, as the stranger explained. Long ago, humans had hidden their greatest secret, a technology so powerful it could change the balance of the galaxy. The Zarkans destroyed evidence, erased history, and tried to bury the truth. But the secret survived. And now it was awake. Hale's voice came through comms. "Get out with what you can. We'll cover your escape." They gathered as much data as possible, then slipped back into the tunnels. Explosions shook the base behind them as the Zarkan reinforcements closed in. The stealth cruiser was waiting. They jumped into subspace just as the planet's defenses exploded in fire. Back on the Dreadnought, Hale studied the stolen data. His eyes widened as the truth unfolded. Humans were not just fighters. They were the galaxy's forgotten architects, keepers of a lost power that even the Zarkans feared. And now, that power was coming back. The mission had been dangerous, but it changed everything. As the fleet prepared for the next battle, Hale knew one thing for sure. Humanity's fight was far from over. It was only just beginning. The stolen data glowed softly on the Dreadnought's main screen. General Marcus Hale stared at the strange symbols and star maps that did not match anything in human records. His heart raced. The secret was bigger than he ever imagined. "We have to tell the council," Hale said, voice steady but urgent. Commander Ortega shook her head. "Not yet. If the Zarkans find out, they will strike harder than before. We must prepare first." Hale understood. This was more than a battle for planets. It was a war for the future of humanity itself. Yara, Relic, and Lieutenant Mallory sat nearby, exhausted but alert. They had risked everything to get this knowledge. Now, it was time to use it. Suddenly, alarm screamed through the ship. "Enemy fleet detected," Ortega shouted. "Zarkan warships, large force heading straight for us." Hale stood. "Battle stations, prepare to defend the Dreadnought." The crew rushed to their positions. Outside, space darkened as dozens of Zarkan ships appeared, blocking all escape routes. "Why are they here so fast?" Yara asked. Ortega answered grimly. "They must have spies. Someone betrayed our location." Hale's mind flashed to Riven Hale, the traitor who had helped the Zarkans before. The enemy was one step ahead. The battle began with deadly intensity. Lasers flashed and missiles screamed through space. The Dreadnoughts' shields took heavy hits, but the human crew fought back fiercely. Hale ordered a daring move. "We can't outrun them. We'll fight through the asteroid belt and use the terrain to our advantage." The ship dove toward the swirling rocks and debris. The Zarkan ships followed, but many were destroyed or disabled by the hazards. Inside the chaos, Hale saw a massive warship emerging from behind an asteroid, a flagship with black armor and glowing red engines. "That's the Zarkan flagship," Ortega said. "It's here to finish us." Hale gritted his teeth. "We won't let that happen." The Dreadnought charged, firing every weapon it had. The flagship responded with brutal force, sending shockwaves that shook the ship. Suddenly the lights flickered. Power systems failed. "Damage to the main reactor," Ortega yelled. "We're losing power fast." Hale knew the ship could fall at any moment. But then, a voice crackled over the comms. "This is Commander Riven Hale. I am inside the flagship." The room froze. "What?" Hale whispered. "Riven has hacked their systems," Ortega said, eyes wide. "He's turning their weapons against them." Hale clenched his fists. "I don't trust him, but right now we need every advantage." Riven's voice came again, calm but cold. "The flagship will self-destruct in 5 minutes. Evacuate, or die." "Everyone prepare to jump," Hale ordered. The Dreadnought raced away from the exploding flagship just in time. The blast shook the stars, but the victory was hollow. Hale knew Riven's help came with a price. The traitor was still out there waiting. As the dust settled, Hale turned back to the data on the secret technology. "This changes everything," he said. Yara nodded. "We must use this power before the Zarkans do." Relic looked determined. "Then let's make sure they never get the chance." The battle was won, but the war for humanity's future had only just begun. The Dreadnought floated silently in the dark expanse far from the burning remains of the Zarkan flagship. The crew was tense but ready. They had survived the last battle, but the secret they carried was like a ticking time bomb. Everyone knew it. General Marcus Hale stood at the bridge window staring into the endless stars. His mind was heavy with thoughts. This secret technology was not just a weapon, it was a link to humanity's past, a power lost but waiting to be awakened. Yara approached him quietly. "Sir, the team is ready. We need to decide our next move." Hale nodded. "We can't stay here. The Zarkans will come after us with everything they have." Relic joined them, holding a small device that glowed faint blue. "I found this in the data files. It's a map, but not like any we've seen." Hale took the device and examined it. "This shows the location of a hidden human outpost, one the Zarkans never found." "An outpost?" Yara asked. "What's there?" "According to the records, it holds the key to activating the secret technology," Relic explained. "If we reach it first, we can turn the tide of this war." Hale made a decision. "Set course for the outpost. But be careful. We don't know what traps or enemies await." As the Dreadnought jumped into subspace, tension filled the air. The crew prepared for anything. Days passed in silence until the ship dropped near a small, forgotten planet surrounded by dense asteroid fields. The outpost lay beneath the surface, hidden inside an ancient cave system. Yara, Relic, and Mallory led the landing team. They moved cautiously through the dark tunnels, their flashlights cutting through the thick shadows. Strange symbols covered the walls, symbols from a time long before humans became explorers of space. Suddenly, the ground trembled. Dust and rocks fell from above. "We're not alone," Mallory whispered. Ahead, a massive door blocked their path, covered in glowing runes. Relic worked quickly to decode the patterns. "This is a lock, but it's tied to the energy from the secret device." Yara connected the glowing map to the door. The runes pulsed, and the door slowly opened, revealing a vast chamber filled with ancient machines. In the center stood a tall console, its screen flickering with life. Hale's voice crackled in their earpieces. "You found it. Now activate the device." Relic approached the console, hands steady but heart racing. He entered the codes from the data. The machines hummed and lights spread across the room like veins of energy. Suddenly, a hologram appeared. A message from the ancestors. "We are the original creators of this power," the hologram said. "Use it wisely, for it can destroy worlds or save them." The team felt the weight of the message. Yara looked at Relic. "Are we ready for this?" Relic nodded. "We have to be." As they prepared to leave, alarms blared. The Zarkan forces had tracked them down. Outside, warships surrounded the planet, weapons locked and ready. "Get back to the ship," Hale ordered urgently. "We fight with this power or die trying." The team raced through the tunnels, carrying the knowledge and power they had uncovered. Back on the Dreadnought, Hale prepared for the final battle. This time, humanity would not run. They would fight with the strength of their forgotten past. They would show the galaxy what humans were truly made of. The Dreadnought trembled as the Zarkan fleet closed in, their weapons glowing bright and deadly. General Marcus Hale stood firm on the bridge, eyes burning with fierce determination. This was the moment humanity had waited for. Yara, Relic, and Mallory worked quickly to activate the ancient power they had discovered. The console hummed louder, sending waves of energy through the ship's systems. It was like waking a sleeping giant. Outside, the Zarkan ships unleashed their attack. Lasers cut through the void, explosions lighting up the darkness. The Dreadnought shook but held strong. Suddenly, the secret technology powered up fully. A brilliant, blue shield expanded around the ship, stronger and brighter than any human-made defense before. It pushed back the enemy's weapons like they were nothing. Hale grinned. "This is just the beginning." The Dreadnought surged forward, firing energy beams that tore through Zarkan hulls. The enemy faltered, caught off guard by the unexpected power. On the bridge, Yara's voice rang out. "We're breaking their lines, keep pushing." Relic added, "The system is responding perfectly. We can control the power." The tide of battle turned quickly. The Zarkan fleet began to retreat, their forces breaking apart under the human assault. But then, the flagship reappeared, wounded, but still dangerous. It launched a last, desperate strike. Hale's heart pounded. "Prepare for impact." The flagship fired a massive energy blast straight at the Dreadnought. The blue shield shimmered and strained, but it held. At the last second, the Dreadnought's new weapon fired back, a pulse of pure energy that slammed into the flagship's core. There was a terrible explosion, and the enemy ship vanished in a fireball. Silence fell over the battlefield. The Zarkans had been defeated. The Dreadnought's crew cheered, but Hale knew the war was far from over. "We have won a great victory today," he said, voice steady. "But we must use this power wisely. The galaxy will never see us the same again." Yara smiled. They called for backup and we answered, with shock and awe. Relic nodded. "Humanity is back, stronger than ever." As the stars shone brightly outside, the Dreadnought set course for home. The secret was out now, and the galaxy would never forget the day humans showed their true power. After the battle, the crew of the Dreadnought worked hard to repair the ship. The secret power had saved them, but it had also drained much of their energy. General Marcus Hale watched the stars from the bridge, thinking deeply. "We've won the fight, but the war is not over," he said quietly. Yara approached him carrying new reports. "Sir, sensors have detected strange signals coming from a distant system. It could be another human outpost or something else." Relic looked at the map. "If it's a new outpost, maybe more of the ancient technology is there." Hale nodded. "We must find out. If the Zarkans want to win, they will try to destroy every trace of our past." The crew prepared for a new mission. They knew the danger, but hope burned brighter than fear. As the Dreadnought jumped to the new system, an uneasy silence filled the ship. Everyone felt the weight of the unknown. When they arrived, the planet below was dark and lifeless. No signs of life, but strange ruins covered the surface. Yara led a small team to explore. The ruins were old and broken, but signs of human design were clear. Suddenly, the ground shook. A hidden trap was triggered. From the shadows, robotic sentries awoke, their eyes glowing red. They moved fast, attacking without mercy. The humans fought back with everything they had, but the robots were strong and relentless. Hale's voice came over the comms. "Fall back to the ship. We need a new plan." The team barely escaped the deadly attack. Back on the Dreadnought, they gathered around the map. "We don't know what created these machines," Relic said, "but they are guarding something important." Hale's face was grim. "We must find out. The future of humanity depends on it." As the Dreadnought prepared to dive deeper into the mystery, a new feeling grew among the crew, fear mixed with hope. They were no longer alone in this fight. The galaxy was bigger and stranger than they thought, and humanity was just beginning to discover its place in it. "Would you like me to continue with Part 10, the final part?" You said. Part 9. ChatGPT said, "Here is Part 9 of your HFY Sci-Fi story." They called for backup. Humans answered with shock and awe. Written in third person, simple basic English, continuing the story with suspense and emotion. The Dreadnought was quiet now, but the tension inside never left. After the great battle, General Marcus Hale knew their journey was far from over. The secret technology had helped them win, but it also brought new dangers. One morning, the ship's sensors picked up a strange signal from deep space. It was faint, but definitely artificial. Hale gathered Yara, Relic, and Mallory on the bridge. "This signal could be another hidden human outpost," Hale said. "Or something else. We need to find out." Yara studied the readings. "It comes from the Draven system, far beyond our current territory." Relic checked the map. "If it's an outpost, it might have more ancient technology. That could change everything." Hale made a decision. Set course for Draven. Prepare for anything. As the Dreadnought jumped through space, the crew felt a mix of hope and fear. They were chasing shadows, but the chance to uncover more of humanity's lost past was worth the risk. When they arrived, the Draven system was cold and dark. The planet below looked lifeless, covered in strange ruins. The landing team, led by Yara and Relic, landed carefully. The ruins were old and silent. Strange machines lay broken, but some still hummed with faint energy. The team moved slowly, eyes sharp for danger. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath them. From the shadows, robotic sentries activated, their red eyes glowing fiercely. "Attack! Formation!" Yara shouted. The team fought bravely, but the robots were strong and relentless. "We need to retreat," Relic warned. "These machines are guarding something important." The team barely escaped back to the ship, shaken but alive. Back on the Dreadnought, Hale looked at the data. "These sentries were made to protect a secret. We must find out what." Yara nodded. "If we can unlock this secret, it could change the war." Hale's voice was steady. "Then we will fight for that secret, no matter the cost." As the Dreadnought prepared to dive deeper into the mystery, the crew felt a new fire. The battle was not just for survival, it was for humanity's future, and they would not stop until they uncovered every hidden truth. The Dreadnought floated silently near the ruins of the Draven planet. The crew was tired, but ready for the final step. General Marcus Hale stood on the bridge, looking at the stars and thinking about everything they had been through. Yara, Relic, and Mallory were preparing the ship's systems to unlock the secret hidden beneath the ruins. This was the moment they had fought for, the truth about humanity's forgotten power. Relic connected the ancient device to the ship's core. Lights flashed and the whole ship shook as the power started to flow. A bright energy spread through the ship like fire. Suddenly, the hologram from the ancestors appeared again. This time, it was clearer and stronger. "We gave you this power to protect the galaxy," the hologram said. "But only those who are brave and wise can use it." Hale stepped forward. "We are ready. We will protect humanity and the galaxy." Bichu, ship systems activated the hidden technology. The Dreadnought was no longer just a warship. It became a symbol of human strength and hope. Outside, the Zarkan fleet appeared again, bigger and more dangerous than ever. But this time, the humans were ready. The Dreadnought fired its new weapons, sending blasts of energy that cut through enemy ships like a storm. The blue shield glowed brighter than ever, protecting them from harm. The battle was fierce and loud. But humanity fought with all its heart and courage. One by one, the enemy ships fell or fled. The Zarkans had never seen anything like this power. When the dust settled, the Dreadnought stood alone in the stars, victorious and strong. Hale looked at his crew. "Today, we showed the galaxy who humans really are. Not weak, not scared, but warriors with a cause." Yara smiled. "They called for backup, and we answered with shock and awe." Relic added, "This is just the beginning. The galaxy will remember humanity forever." As the Dreadnought set course for home, the crew knew their journey was not over. But now, they carried the light of hope, the power of their ancestors, and the will to fight for the future. And in the vast darkness of space, humanity's true story had finally begun.